Here we are then on the start line, all ready for a time trial, a team time trial in the OTR Love TTT series. This one based on a course in Portsmouth. Now you can see that it's reasonably flat from the green line at the bottom. We'll talk about that more as the race gets underway. 1 second to go. And we're off. And who do we have in the team tonight? We have Martin Brown, Dave Morrison, Bhavesh Mistry, Tobias Bjork, Gautam Thakkar and Rafa Nunes. And you'll see that fairly British in the lineup, apart from Tobias from Sweden, the blue and yellow Swedish flag with the cross there, and Rafa Nunes with the Ecuadorian flag, although he is based in the UK these days. So that's me. Now I'm doing the camera work, so I tend to lose focus, no pun intended, on the race because I'm too focused on the camera work. So you can blame the camera work, you can blame me for the camera work if it goes wrong, but sitting on the back trying to get the best views. Rafa's just sitting off the back there. I wouldn't worry too much about him. He's one of the stronger riders. He was telling me during the week actually that he sort of has some connectivity problems and sometimes just gets left off the back because there's something happens with the connectivity, but he's quite happy pulling back on. And it's a shame really because if there wasn't that little sort of lull, that split second where it doesn't register and he loses time, he would probably be turning us all off the front. But at the moment it's Bhavesh Mistry doing a turn on the front, and Bhavesh, like myself, probably not going to finish in the top three in this race, but they're certainly to help out in the early stages and pad it all out a bit so that everybody gets a bit of drafting in. So we're into 10 mile territory here today. It's 16 kilometres. Like I say, it's not particularly hilly. You can see just under the word team on your screen is probably the only hill. That's less than 3%. It doesn't last very long. So, alright, if you're at full pelt, any gradient is a little bit harder work. But you've got the benefit of the draft here and the steer on the front. And so it's really all about getting the third man over the line and having as many people as you possibly can left in the second half of the race in order to make sure that everybody's taking shorter times on the front. Now, the less riders you have, the more time each spends on the front, the more tiring it becomes, and so on and so forth. You must fill the gaps there. There's a little bit of a gap there appearing in between Gautam Thakkar and Rafa Nunes, but Rafa, in that cool South American style, just drifts back on, towing Bhavesh, and the only laggard at the back is Martin at the moment, so Martin won't be in trouble. He'll soon be back up. One of our stronger riders, actually, Martin, originally from Stoke-on-Trent, and always nice to have a Stokey in the team. And I suppose there must be a Stoker joke there, wasn't it? If you think about tandems, you have a Stoker and a rider, don't you? So we'll have to think up a tandem joke for next time for Martin. But anyway, we're glad to have him on the team, and there he is pulling back on. Never a problem for Martin, as I say, a strong rider. As we go past one of the little crowds you get, and Martin zooms up to the front. Now, and look at that, he's done a catch up and he's straight on the front doing a turn, and that's Martin all over. An absolute engine in this team. So look out for him. A little bit of a gap appearing. Bhavesh, myself and Tobias just taking us back on. 2 kilometres gone, and so we're just under 14 left to go. And as I say, this is not particularly hilly. The one thing that this course did have, and you can't tell this from the map, but if you look on the right of your screen, you'll see that thing that looks like a broken heart. It's the route, and the blue bob is where we are on that route. Now, it looks fairly straight, but in amongst there are lots of little kinks and bends, and RGT does actually automatically brake you if you go around a tight bend. So there are points in this course where the course will slow you down to go around those little bends that aren't particularly obvious from the route map on the right of your screen, but they will actually take a little bit off. Now, if you look here, this is a tight bend. You see on the left there, right up in the top left-hand corner, it went red momentarily. It goes red again there. That's the power output. It'll probably go red again here. Look, here we go. Now that's automatically braking the riders, so the effort they're putting in is wasted to the extent that it's gone into the red. And as I say, that braking on those corners will have an effect on the speed they're doing, and it will affect the times. Now, we are privileged, I suppose, with the way this event works, in that you can get a rough idea from the other teams that have ridden before you what sort of time you're looking for, and I suppose, like any time trial, the teams would have ridden before you, unless you're one of the early ones, and you can have a look at what the times are. So I think the times you're going to see across the week from the teams will probably range from about 24 to 30. This league is divided up into 3 divisions at the moment. If more teams join, there will be new divisions and so on. But I think so. Across 3 divisions, I think there's 13 teams at the moment, and it'll probably be more in a couple of weeks as new teams join. I was to say, I think the top teams in the top division will probably be hitting the 24 something, and I think the guys in the lower divisions, and even guys elsewhere, if you've got a week where you can only get 3 riders, you might struggle to do a good time because you've only got 3 riders. Now look, I'm doing 40 kph here and falling off the back, and I was fighting very, very hard to get on, but that gap really, because I lost a bit of concentration, lost the wheel, and have never really got back on, still doing 36, 35, and at this point I kind of decided that I would give up and let the others go, because if they all wait for me, it's just going to cost them time. So that was that. I decided I was out of the race. Then Martin said over Discord, "Don't worry, catch up, mate, and I'll tow you back on." So I gave it another go, and here we are. You can see from 35 when I just basically sat up and given up, pushed it up to 37. Martin's waiting for me, but the others are going on. So there's now appearing a gap between Martin and the others, because he's basically waiting for me to catch up and give me a tow. Now, having done one chase, I'm already beginning to tire. So the question now is Martin wasting his time getting me back on? Because after the effort of what is going to be a long catch up now for me, will I have anything left to contribute to the team? Now you can see the gaps coming down, and I'm thinking, I'm going to get on this, and Martin's going to tow me back. And you can see me getting closer and closer to Martin. But what's happening just in front, the gap between Martin and the others is increasing. Then we get this tight bend, so nobody's going fast around that anyway. Maybe that helps catch up. We've got the hill coming up. Look, more of these tight little bends, and I'm going red. You can see the red there, so a bit of wasted cadence. But look how close I'm getting to Martin. So I'm pushing and pushing, 40 kph, soloing here, and this is effectively like being on the front for a few minutes now, just chasing. Martin's sitting up waiting for me still. What a gentleman. Thank you very much, Martin, if you're watching. But look at the gap between Martin and the others. This is getting big now. This is going to be a big tow back. By this time, the effect of the chase, going around these bends, the hill's coming up. Will I catch them on the hill? I don't know. Will the hill just kill me off? I was getting very, very tired now as we go around another one of those little chicanes. And I just said to Martin at this point, I don't think I'm going to be much use to the team. I've just exhausted myself in that catch. So Martin's wasted his time waiting for me. That's the point where I said, go on Martin, go without me. But now he's got sort of 100 to 80 meters to catch up, and he's now going to exhaust himself catching up. So me falling off the back and him waiting was a bad decision. Bavesh Mystery just falling off the other 3. They go around one of those tight bends, and you see the Watts in the top left hand corner go red again on that bend. So 3 out the front, Bavesh falling off that group, and Martin on a big chase. So this has been some pretty bad tactics by us at this point. We've got 3 up front. If the 3 can get all the way to the end together, then great, but it means more turns on the front than if they'd had Martin with them. So we've made a bad decision. I should let Martin go earlier. At the time I felt that I was going to get a tow back, but it just eventually took its toll, and I realised I wasn't going to get there. So what do? Bavesh just pulling back on, so back up to 4. This is great news. So it's a little bit better with 4. The question is, do we wait for Martin or not? Now at this time you can see Martin has halved the gap. So if he's halved the gap, it's worth getting there. They're about to go up this hill. As you can see just under the word team, you can see the big white blob, that's where they are. And there's Martin, he's nearly back on. Just as they get to the hill, the gradient is about to go up. It won't go above 3%. Gotham and a couple of the others just drifting a little bit away from Martin. He's probably sitting up after all that effort now, the problems that I've caused him. So So what do? That gap is not, it was about to close down, but it's opened up a little bit again. I think it's about 20 something metres, so it's not insurmountable. And they're getting to the top of that hill and going down again now. So really, they should get the 4 back together. It needs 4. If you're that close, you're not going to drop Martin now. Don't forget, he spent a lot of energy, so he needs to just sit on the wheel and probably miss a turn on the front as they go to the finish. 6.5 kilometres to go, so just under 10, about 9.5 still left in the race, and we've got 4 back together. And I think we can conclude at this point, with Babesh 120 odd metres behind, that this is the 4 that can go to the finish. Now remember, of course, it's the third man's time, but that's fine. Take this 4 as far as you can. They've done the one bit of climbing. It's not deadpan flat for the rest of the race, but nothing really serious to consider. So this 4 should really work together to the rest of the race. Now they're on Discord shouting where they're going to take turns on the front. Martin's very good at organising this. There's another one of those twisty little bends that just slows everybody down and interrupts the time. They'll be the same for all teams. We're all doing the same course, so you can't grumble about that. It's just something to bear in mind when you do examine the teams. Now, say the target was about 24 to 30, so anything under 25 I think will probably be decent. I mean, maybe some of the top teams will do 23s, but I think really, kind of 24 to 30 is what I would guess for this. Apart from the very top teams, I think they might get sort of 22s, 23s, but so I'm probably slightly revising what I said earlier, because I think I said 24 to 30, but I think probably 23 to 30 is more realistic. For a time trial, I mean, we do 10-mile time trials, which this really is, and decent club riders will get the get around 22 on some of those. The really good guys 20, and so on and so forth. So if you do 20 in a time trial, you're pretty fast, at the club level, which is what we have here in these events, I assume. I don't assume there's any top professionals doing these. There might be, who knows, ex-professionals possibly. But as I say, so 22 would be very, very fast, and I think the target, I think for most people, as we go under the halfway banner and we're on 12. Now if you double that up, that's 24, probably 24:40 if we keep the same pace to the end. So that'd be a very good time for us, because as I say, my initial assessment was probably 24 to 30. I'm looking at it now thinking this is probably more like 22 for the really fast teams. 22 to 30 is the range. If we get 24, this team's in Division 2, in second place in it in the moment. I think they'd be happy with something between 24 and 25 if it can be done. So of course, in the first half, you've got to look at what they had. They had 6 riders instead of 4. Okay, 2 of us didn't really put a lot into that, but nevertheless, when you've got 6, when you are on the back, there's 4 people in front of you or 5 people in front of you, as opposed to now, if you're on the back, there's only 3 people in front of you. So there is an advantage in having a couple of other bodies there, just for when people are sitting on the back off their turn. And we have done the one little bit of climbing, if you can call it that, under the word team there, at about 6 kilometres. So a reasonably benign course to go. Legs will be a little bit tired, numbers down. I would guess that I think 25 and maybe a shade under is probably what is on course here, depending on how much they last. And we've got to remember here that Martin did that enormous catch up when he waited for me towards the beginning, which was I think a bad tactic, and it's probably cost us somewhere possibly in the region of 20 seconds over this race, maybe more. I'm guessing that's not a very scientific estimate, I have to say. So here we are with under 7 to go now. We're nearly at 10k, and speeds at 40 kph, kind of about right. That's what I expect from the team, hitting about 42 and a half just there for the moment. So if this can be maintained, the gradient is 0. I mean, it will go slightly over 0 and slightly under 0 at points there, but it's reasonably flat. If you look under the word Portsmouth, just under the O and U, there's a little bit of a climb there, and towards the end it's very, very slightly and gently going up hill for quite a way. But that can take its toll, and it means your sprint's not necessarily all that great, as Rafa does one of his kind of call off the back things and joins on again. Like he says, it's connectivity. Sometimes there's just a little bit of connectivity problems and something doesn't quite register, and he has to do a catch up. But he's a strong rider, so no worries about that. They're coming together again. Rafa just pulling up towards the wheel of Gautam Thakkar, their GT as we call him, who's come a long way. He's doing some good riding at the moment, and this is off the back. He rode London, Edinburgh, London, the LEL ride this summer, which I think for a lot of us who did it is the longest ride we've ever done. I think it's 1,550 kilometres. So he's had a good summer and doing well here. Only just getting back into racing online after a summer of basically long distance riding like that. So great performance from GT here. Martin again leading from the front. He's an inspiration to this team. I think we have to look at people who sort of kind of drive the team, and Pete Dickerson in VR1 and Martin in VR2 are the voices, the guys who kind of captaining everybody, if you like, in the team, which is great. And they're team players. They're both happy to let somebody else finish ahead of them. They're not, they're doing everything for the team, and they're trying to marshal the troops and get everybody doing what they're supposed to be doing. Inspirations without a doubt, and I'm sure every one of these teams in this has got one of those in their team. So just over 5 kilometres to go, and 16 minutes, which means we're still on course for 25, maybe slightly under. So we're 2/3 of the way through, so half of 16 is 8, that makes 24 and a bit. So still looking good, maintaining speed. It's 37 kph at the moment, slightly downhill, so you'd expect it to ramp up a little bit. Not sure, it goes up to 38.5, 39, and you can see the effect of that very, very slight downhill is just boosting the speed there momentarily for a little while. The legs will be getting tired. I mean, it's a full out effort. The breathing obviously gets a little bit more tense as well, as we're hitting 38, 39, whereas you might have expected 40 on this sort of gradient, but never mind. It's hitting 40 now, so that's kind of where we'd expect it to be. Tobias Bjork from Sweden now, with Gautam Thakkar on his wheel. Martin in 3rd position. Raf not drifting off the front on this occasion, giving it a bit, coming into 2nd wheel now, so go through one of those little barriered sections. Tobias pushing out 34, 35. Very slight gradient here, about 1%, but it's as I say, when you're full pelt, 1% can feel like a lot more because of the effort you're putting in, especially if you're on the front. And Tobias, the man who has to face it all while they all sit on his wheel. Back up to 37 though, as that comes out the other side and they start drifting down. 45, 47, 48, 49. Will they hit 50 kph? Not quite. Stops just short, making up any time lost on that uphill now. More than made up for with these speeds on the downhill. 43, 44 still, as they drop down through another one of those little crowded sections with a few banners. More normalised now. They're back down to sort of almost flat ground, and it hits that 37 pace, 37 kph. Now that's as I say, 40 now, so it's undulating a little bit. It probably depends who's on the front, how the legs are feeling, and it will go up and down as the riders change. The idea is to keep this as smooth as you can, so you don't really want it sort of kind of jerking up to kph just because somebody's gone on the front, because you probably drop somebody off the back. So everybody's got to keep an eye on everybody else, both behind you and in front of you, as Martin does another one of those absolutely rousing sets on the front that he does, and he'll be telling everybody how long he's going to do it for and everything else on the front. Look at him firing away up there, everybody just fighting to keep on as he takes the pace up to 41, and this is a leader of a team, isn't it? Absolutely fantastic stuff. Tobias, that's a nice little line as well. They're all in a straight line, so that's quite good. 41, 42. This is efficient. This will help them hit that target. 3.3 kilometres to go, so they're getting into the latter stages. Rises a little bit towards the end, not a lot, but it makes it it's one of those where you get into the last, I suppose, kilometre and a half when you're probably thinking, right, I can give it everything now, but that little bit of a gentle rise just makes it that little bit harder. The legs are tired from the effort, so it's probably not going to be as fast to finish as you'd like in the last 2 kilometres, 1.5 kilometres and 1 kilometre, wherever you decide that you're going to actually launch yourself. It's probably not going to be quite as fast as you think it ought to be, given the flatness of this, but they're quite comfortable around this sort of 40 kph speed at the moment as Rafa goes on the front. The Ecuadorian now, Gautam Thacker, he does like to go out in the front and lead. He certainly likes a bit of speed, does GT. Bunched together quite nicely, so that's it may not be a perfect line, but people getting the benefit of the draft here. Still up around that 40 kph mark, which is going to help the speed and time. The 20 minutes gone now, 2025, so it's 20 and a half minutes. They've got 2.5 kilometres to go. So extrapolating that, we're still looking at around that 25 mark, maybe just under 25 minutes, which would be quite a decent time for VR2. They'll be happy with this. VR2 is effectively the second team for West London. VR1 riding simultaneously, actually, so I have no idea how they're getting on. They too had 6 riders today, so that is one of the factors in these races, actually, how many riders you can get for a race, because obviously you have to get everybody available at exactly the same time to do a race, and there are weeks where you end up with only 3 riders, which makes it a little bit difficult, but it is what it is, and you have to get out there and do what you can. Our view is that even if you've got 3 riders, you go out there, and if you come last, you'll get a point for coming last, which is better than not turning up. So we'll quite happily put whoever we can out to try and grab that point rather than miss a race altogether, and that's the way we do it. But this week everybody available, so 6 riders in both VR1 and VR2 teams. If you're interested in joining us, we're quite happy. We've got enough riders, nearly enough riders to set up a VR3 team, but not quite ready yet. But we're certainly looking and thinking about setting up a 3rd team to race each week. Should we get, I don't know, 2 or 3 maybe more into the squad, but the squad's got more than 12 riders, so we could almost fill 3 teams already, but only if everybody's available. Which comes back to the problem for all the teams in this. Getting 6 riders on an evening is a little bit hard work, but when you get it, it's fantastic. And to VR2, I've had 6 riders today, which they don't normally get. Being the second team, we field the strongest possible first team, and this will be very pleasing for them. The 4 that have finished it off are going to put a good time in. 23 and a half now, just over a kilometre to go, so we're still on course for that under 25. They're probably all sort of deciding who's got enough in them. Do they sort of race off with 3? They go under the Flamme Rouge, so there's only a kilometre to go. The decisions now, is everybody firing? Do we go for it, all 4 over the line together, or is somebody say, well, that's me, you 3 just charge on, don't let me hold you up? Part of the skill, if you're a fast rider, is actually waiting for the 3rd rider to get over the line. When you've got 4, you can afford to drop one, but not everybody wants to be dropped, and not everybody feels it can be dropped. And if you have got 4, it does give you the opportunity, of course, to I suppose have extra draft. 600 metres to go, 23:21. It's going to go over 24, well, that's for sure. 575 metres to go, 23.5 minutes. Looks like they're going to get under 25. They're not going to get under 24, though, I don't think. As they race away, 44th kph. Like I said, not going quite as fast as you possibly imagine, because there is a very, very slight gradient towards the end. Not a lot, but they're getting up to, they're over 40 at the moment as they put Tobias pushing off out the front, but they need to close that gap to make the most of it. It's no good racing off on the front. You need the 3rd man's time. They're coming into the markers now. They're under 200k to go. The last little bit of shall we say spectators before they get into the barriered section up to the finishing line. Under 100 metres, here's the barriered section up to the finishing line. All 4 are going to finish together. They're on 24, 16, 17, so that is 24:17. That is a decent time. In fact, that's way under the 25. I think they'll be very, very pleased with that in VR2. I'm still trundling along. I can't go home because I'm carrying the camera, and Bavesh just a little bit behind me, and we can sit and watch this, or not, as your will may be. I don't think you need to sit all day, do you? So thanks for watching. That was the VR2 team, and obviously everybody gets off their bike and rushes out to see what VR1 did, because we rode together, and it all goes again next week. See you then. Bye.